Yo guys, what's going on, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm back with another Psgl League race. Today it's round number 6 at the Belgian Grand Prix. I missed round number 5 in Germany as I was on holiday in Spain, but we are back in Belgium and this is my qualifying lap. Qualifying on the soft tyre because super softs just do not last at all, much like the previous tracks so far this season. And I was planning on a one-stop soft to medium, but it turns out it was going to rain in the race, so I was planning on softs and then inters, hopefully to the end. I think I showed the weather during the formation lap, so you'll see what is going to happen this race. But I didn't actually get a lot of practice for this race. I came back on the Saturday. I got back about Saturday afternoon, so I had, I'd say about a day's practice. And it was spent quite a lot just on race pace because I knew race pace is so much better for me than qualifying, so I focused quite heavily on just getting the strategy right and hopefully it's keeping consistency and not picking up any penalties. But this lap wasn't actually too bad given how I'd been struggling on the soft tyre in qualifying. It was actually a fairly decent lap. I already put in a lap on heavy fuel on super soft just so I had a lap, just a delta to keep track. We're coming through the third sector now. We've got a car off at the side. I think he's retired. We're coming through the final corner. We haven't really had many mistakes this lap. Clipping the apex out of the final corner. DRS to the line, and it's going to put us P6, which was actually a very decent lap. A 1:47.0 is the fastest lap time I've done on the softs so far. And at the end of qualifying, that puts us in P7, which I was actually quite happy with just because I wouldn't have to pit before the wet weather came. So I thought it was in quite a good position for the race, and yeah, quite a few people crashing out in qualifying, so that helped me out quite a bit. But let's move on to the formation lap. You can see blue skies at the moment, but I'll show you the weather in a minute, and it's definitely not going to stay that way. We have two people at the side, that was Johan and Courtois. I don't know how people struggle with formation lap, but here is the weather for the race. It's going to start off dry, then it's going to go to inters, then heavy rain, then back to inters. So I was really hoping that I could hold on to the intermediate tyres through the heavy rain and hopefully just make one pit stop. That was my aim when I saw that weather. And I actually forgot to mention qualifying, I was running a wet setup, so I was I solely went into this race just hoping to make up positions in the race. Hopefully my wet setup will help me during the rain. I didn't know what strategy everyone else was on, so I was just praying that they had a dry setup. But we'll have to see as the formation lap comes to an end. Starting in P7, it's race time. So here we go. We have 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. And it's lights out and away we go. The light's been held for a very long time. It's actually been a fairly decent start. I've got into the line for turn 1, so hopefully we can make up a position up the inside of Johan. Very, very close to the barrier, and I think we're side by side with Dougie. He is on the faster tyre, but his tyres are not going to last very long. In the slipstream, down towards El Rouge, and I was just praying that I didn't lose it. We come to the top, and that was Ardio, and I think that was Courtois. Going into the wall, that promotes us to P5. And this was the start of me just getting promoted up positions right onto the back of Dougie, but I didn't really want to make a move on the first lap, especially in sector 2. I just wanted to get a rhythm going and just make sure I didn't cut any corners, didn't just lose any time. I know I didn't need to race the super soft runners because their tyres would go off in about 3 or 4 laps. Tyre wear was just absolutely shocking if you were on a super soft tyre. And you can see behind me also my teammate on the super soft tyre, so I knew he wasn't, even if he overtook me, he wouldn't hold me up in the pit. Luckily, so I could just race and just focus on saving my tyres until the wet weather came, because I knew it was going to be mid-race, but obviously I didn't know how many laps, so I was just praying that the wet weather came before my tyres went off. Otherwise, the people starting at the back on the medium tyre would definitely gain an advantage. But as we come through the legendary Jack Tyler corner, running a bit wide, and if I crashed out there I probably would have cried. I mean, my goal was to just get through lap 3, just I think it was lap 3 or maybe lap 5, but just complete more laps than I did last time out, let's just say that. But as we come down to the final corner, you can see we're not actually losing too much time to these guys. The 2 Williams and the Ferrari really getting sideways. Johan, I think, takes a swipe at Dougie or just loses the back end slightly. We think about making it 3 wide but decide against it. We're going to try and get the cut back on the Toro Rosso. But I saw he was going side by side with the Williams. And I don't know, we just lose the back end slightly. Make slight contact with the Toro Rosso. And our teammate makes a move on us for P number 5. And we've lost quite a bit of momentum as we head down the straight. As we saw in the final corner, I was just hoping that these guys would continue racing, hopefully stay bunched up and just hold each other up so I could just close into the back of them. I mean, pace-wise, there wasn't a big difference between super softs and softs, especially at this stage in the race. You can see everyone almost going side by side, and Fragglepool gets a nudge from the Toro Rosso there, that promotes us back up to P5. And ahead you can see our teammate gets on the grass and absolutely wipes out the Toro Rosso. That promotes us up into P3. So as it stands, the only way we've gained positions this race is from people hitting each other off, which I will take happily. We are up into P3 from P7 and coming to the end of lap number 5. The rain is coming down ever so slightly, but it is wet enough for the intermediate conditions. Ashbest is just behind us. And I think Zalan came in first and his teammate Yarham stayed out on the soft tyres. He's going to lose out massively because it's a long track and there's a lot of time to be lost if you're on the wrong tyre. But we pit on the intermediate tyres, getting held up ever so slightly by the Haas car, but we do get out in front of Ashbest. Zalan gets out ahead of us. I was kind of thinking Zalan was just going to fly away, much like he did, or has done, in the previous races this season. We come out in P3 quite comfortably, and I'm pretty sure we're going to take P2 once Yarham pulls into the pit. And on the next lap, that is exactly what happened. Yarham pulled into the pit, and we're going to take P2, starting from 7th on lap number 7, straight up into 2nd place. I'll admit, very, very lucky, but I will take P2. And this is where my wet setup will hopefully help me out here. Hopefully I can just pull away from Ashbest. I guess I wasn't going to catch Zalan, so I just thought, let's just focus on putting in some lap times and get away from Ashbest. However, on to lap number 7, coming through the final corner. Look at the bottom, Zalan has left the session the second I saw that. I thought there was a chance that I could actually win this race. Obviously, he didn't say he retired, just said he left, so there's a chance he was going to join back. As we come out of the first corner, if you keep an eye on the bottom, it does appear eventually as we head down towards El Rouge. There it is, he has joined back. But that's lost him a bit of time, obviously. Not 12 seconds worth, but it lost him a little bit of time. So Jeff said heavy rain in 5 minutes, which would be about 2 or 3 laps around about, although the weather really isn't that accurate on this game. But on to lap number 8, we've still got a decent gap to Ashbest, although he is starting to close. Zalan has comfortably got this race win if he can just keep up this pace. Although it's going to be interesting with the strategy, because obviously heavy rain is on its way, but light rain will reappear right to the end, so I don't know if Zalan was going to stay out. I knew I was going to stay out. I'd already committed to that. And I assumed Ashbest was just going to copy what I did, as me and him were kind of battling for P2 this entire race. But as we come on to lap number 12, this is the period where it should have been heavy rain, but you can see there is just about a dry line, and the Inters really weren't struggling too much at any of the corners. There was no part of the track I was struggling. I was keeping consistent pace, although Ashbest was closing up to me. But that was just proof that the Inters could work in these conditions. Ashbest closing on to the back of me. We go slightly defensive, but leaves him enough room to convince him to go up the inside, and you want the outside line for this corner. There's a little bit of contact, but he just can't make the move stick. He didn't have the right line. And I think that's the only overtaking attempt that he makes on me. That was the one time that he got close enough to me. And I don't think the slipstream glitch was enabled. He seemed to close up quite a lot, without DRS obviously. But at the end of lap number 12, coming out the final corner, the second we get out the final corner, we're going to get onto the radio to Jeff and ask him what the weather's doing. And he said it's going to transition to light rain in 10 minutes. So when I heard that, I assumed this was the heavy rain, which I was perfectly fine with. I mean, I wasn't struggling at all. I wasn't losing any time to Zalan, and I wasn't really losing any time to Ash or gaining any. So the intermediates were working absolutely perfectly. However, on the next lap, lap number 13, you can see I was struggling a little bit, but the safety car was deployed, and that was an absolute lifesaver, because that would just give me a chance to just go slowly during the wet weather period, and hopefully by the end of the safety car intermediates will come back into their prime. I did consider pitting onto another set of inters, but honestly, I didn't actually notice how much of a gap the top 3 had. So I decided against it, and we were going to stay out until the end of the race. Well, this will give us around 3 or 4 laps for the rain to hopefully die down. But you can see in the top left, Zalan actually does pit onto the wet tyres. And just like when he left the session, when I saw that, I knew there was a chance that I might be able to win this race. If the heavy rain went away at the end of the safety car period, I could definitely win this race if I could just keep the tyres. But with the safety car help, I should be able to take the tyres to the end, and it will be the right conditions for these tyres. So as we come on to lap number 16, the safety car is coming in. You can see it's definitely heavy rain now, so I was really hoping the safety car would just stay out for one more lap, but we're going to have to deal with what we've got. Zalan going ridiculously slowly. I don't know. I honestly don't know. He comes to a stop at some stage, and I don't know what he was doing. I honestly do not know what he was doing. I don't know if he was purposely being awkward because it was his last race, but I think he caused some people to get penalties, so that's unfortunate for them. But this is why, if you're watching this video, this is why you got those penalties. You can see the second Zalan goes, obviously on the right tyres at this stage, he had absolutely bolted and he was gone. I mean, I was hoping this would just last one lap and then the intermediate tyres would come back into their prime, because you see Zalan making the most of those tyres and absolutely going for it. I think he knew at this stage he needed to push to hopefully win this race. But now we've got an interesting battle between myself, Ash Best and AMS, all on intermediate tyres. But AMS, I didn't actually realise this at the time, but he was on fresh intermediate tyres. We cut the first corner, stupidly, I don't know why. But going up El Rouge, this is going to be tricky. AMS has already taken 3rd place, and obviously I didn't know he was on fresh intermediate tyres, but I realise now how he was so quick coming up the top of El Rouge. He just had so much better traction, and I wasn't going to fight him. I mean, I saw how much pace he had, and there was absolutely no point in fighting him. We go to the outside and just let him through. There's no point in trying to battle him. We're just going to lose so much time to Zalan. So AMS takes 2nd place on the fresh intermediate tyres. I'm sure we'll be absolutely flying come the end of the race. And coming to the end of the lap, moving on to lap number 18, you can see the dry line is starting to appear again, and this is where the intermediate tyres came into their prime once again, and I knew I'd made the right strategy call. Although looking back, AMS actually made the right strategy call, as he was on fresh intermediate tyres in the right conditions, and you can see how much he is flying on those fresh tyres. But we couldn't just cruise to the end, we still had to push to try and catch Zalan. Obviously he was still miles ahead, but he is now on the wrong tyres, and we were just hoping that we could catch him before the end of the race. He's only got 5 laps to last. But can myself and AMS, and maybe even Sao Paulo behind, catch onto the back of him? Will Zalan even get a podium this race? It's looking unlikely. It's on to lap number 21. AMS has made a pass on him, and now you can see how much he is struggling on the wet tyres. Just could not get the traction out of corners, and I thought he was going to let me through because he was on the wrong tyres and being incredibly awkward, but given what he did on the safety car restart, I shouldn't have been surprised that he was holding me up. I mean, obviously still battling for points, but yeah, holding me up quite a bit. We're going to go up the inside into the Jack Tyler corner, and that is us up into P2, and that is how it's going to stay until the end of the race. AMS, you can see, is miles ahead, and he is definitely going to win this race as we come on to the final corner of the final lap. We don't actually lose too much time to AMS, but he is going to win the Belgian Grand Prix, and we're going to come home with a very respectful 2nd place, the 1 stop, getting us 2nd place. What can I say? At the end of the day, I made the wrong strategy call. We come home in 2nd place, and given how I only did a day's practice, I was very happy with that. But it's actually Ashley that takes the podium, so in those final few laps, 4 different people had 3rd place there. But here are the championship standings at the end of the Belgian Grand Prix. We sit in 8th position, and given how I had a DNF and a DNS, I'm quite happy taking 2 2nd place finishes. We sit on 25 points, joint with Fragglepool in 7th. And with Zalan leaving for, I think he's going to F1, it's the race winner AMS that takes the lead of the championship on 43 points. We are just 22 points behind him. So who knows, if I can get some consistency, maybe I'll be able to challenge at the top But that's going to be it for this video, guys. If you did enjoy, remember to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new around here. Thank you guys for watching, and see ya!